Hey everyone, welcome to this week's update of Premier Properties. It's funny, I happen to be at my grandparents' house this week, so don't mind the background or anything like that. It is my mum's 60th birthday, so happy birthday to her. But look, in this week's update, I did have a few little things move last week. One of the inner city properties that I was mentioning last week that is already gone, as I thought it would. Furthermore, as well, the other inner west one that was cheaper is also gone, and also. I did have another one actually in Newport that I was mentioning. That one is gone too. Look, there's actually a few more available though, which happens to be quite good. So, look, in this week's update, I've got a few different things. First of all, I've actually got one in all three eastern states. Good news to anyone who wants to buy. I mean, across them. I do actually have one in Brisbane that's a original dual income duplex. Um, it happens to be in one of my favourite suburbs in the inner north of Brisbane, which is a really good area. Look, you're probably picking up for somewhere between 1.3 and 1.35. To be transparent about it, the property itself, look, it is under rented at the moment. Don't get me wrong. You'll get in the mid 4% yield at the moment. However, if that was to go market, you would probably get 5.5% yield there, maybe even slightly more. There's long term tenants there who've done, taking care of it and done quite well. But on this alone, this property, if you've got a higher borrowing capacity and you wanted to just make instant equity, this I've got vals at, 1.57 and one val with one major lender, and I've got another one with 1.6 for another major lender. Really good deal in that dual income premier suburb of Brisbane. It's like 5k from the CBD to give you an idea. Really good opportunity. And then one of the few that I think will continue to do well, and you'll probably make quite a bit of money over the next few years as well. Next one I've got is, and this is funny enough, I was mentioning this recently in a video. It's in an inner suburb of Newcastle. Now, it's close to the suburb median. However, the property itself is good and it's in the top end of basically the suburb. So it's in, I'd say, your most expensive 10% pocket of the suburb, right? And it's listed around the median. So these are one of those ones where I've been mentioning in the past that, look, don't worry about the listing price, worry about the value. This one would be valued, I think, somewhere between 150 and 200,000 more than the agent and the actual owner is looking for. Look, I reckon you can probably pick it up for 1,050,000, maybe to 1.1 million. But my imagination is it's worth 1.25 to 1.3 any day of the week. And I know that because I actually happen to own on the neighbouring street, pretty much 50 metres away from this one. It's in Newcastle, to give everyone an idea. And look, I don't imagine it'll last too long because it's abnormally lowly priced. The agent's just an idiot, to be honest. He doesn't know what he's doing. For someone looking for a long term deal in Newcastle, or even it could even be a Sydney sider, for example, who wants to buy a house that even might want to live in it in the future. It's a very, very good suburb to live in, great family suburb. I can't think of a better deal I've seen in the suburb for a long while, especially the price and especially the location in the suburb. So, good deal in that. Um, Other updates, I do have a very interesting one, and it's not probably not for everyone. It's one of the cheapest deals you'll ever see. So I have one in Geelong. It's basically in a waterfront suburb, and it needs about, I'd say, 40,000 to $50,000 worth of work. Don't get me wrong, right? But you'd pick it up for probably, in the 500,000s mark. Um, it would valid at least, I'd say, in the mid sixes, maybe early sevens. And you'd actually probably be able to get dual income out of it as well. So it's very rare. It does, from memory, have a separate gas meter already on it. You'd only have to put a separate electrical on it. I think water is, from memory, I think water is also already done. So a lot of the meterage is done. The exterior is pretty bad, but the interior is not too bad, to be honest. So it's a really rare opportunity. But I mean, if someone doesn't have the borrowing capacity but has the cash, it'd be a very good deal for that because you would turn it. I mean, if you had the money, I think you'd turn it at least cash flow neutral, maybe even cash flow positive if you're willing to do the works. So it's a really rare deal in that. And one I think people, will probably flock to, and it probably will sell quite quickly because it's pretty rare to find deals like that. Um, Other update, I do have another one in Geelong as well that actually I haven't actually put it up on my site yet, but I will after this video. And it's basically in about 3.5K from Geelong CBD. I think you'll pick it up for about 600,000, mind you. Now it'll rate. It's basically a turnkey. This will rent for a kid you not 480 a week easily. I reckon you could probably even push it to 500 because it is. I mean, it is a property that people want, and there's not enough rentals at the moment. So I reckon you'd probably get it. I had someone very close by get 500 on a probably similar, probably slightly worse interior block. So I think it's definitely achievable. Look, this one alone, I think will sell almost immediately because there's not much for 600,000 that you can just turnkey anymore. It's very rare. That won't exist in 3 to 6 months' time. I'll tell you that right now. It won't exist. So that's another one I've got. Finally, to close this out, I do still have one in Newport, probably around $1 million purchase price or so, but it'll rent for about $750 a week. This property as well is brick, veneer, and tile. I love the location, one of the best streets, walking distance to the station, to the Coles and the village, which is where everyone wants to live. No major, should I say, overlays or anything like that as well. Probably, I mean, like, you get mid-nines growth long term there, and you get like roughly 4%. You're really, really good return in that. Good turnkey one as well. To close out as well, my last two, I do still have one in Footscray. Renovator as well, probably pick it up in the mid to late sixes. Probably need to spend about $50,000 on it. However, it will val immediately in the mid 800s once you do it. Very good deal in that. So someone who's got the excess cash and has the ability to do something like that, I'd highly recommend it. My final one I've still got, I do have a new one actually coming up in an inner western suburb that I think you'll pick up in the mid 800s. Probably 600 a week rent, mid 9% to 10% growth in that. Really, really good. Actually on a larger block as well. So someone who wants a land bank, it's good for them. Look, I think you could put 3 townhouses quite easily on this because in a neighbouring property in the same block they have. I've even seen 4, but that will obviously depend on your actual, town planner and what if it can meet the performance requirements to do so. So that's probably a big thing to consider there. But in saying that as well, like I'd probably, if you were looking at something like that, I'd look to land bank it and just hold it and rent it out for probably 5-10 years when the Melbourne market's, right through its growth cycle. That's when you'd look to do it and really cash in. But anyway, look, that's my update for this week. Thanks for everyone for reaching out. There's been plenty of positive feedback. There's been really good, people reaching out, looking to do some serious stuff lately. And I'm doing my best to service, everyone as I always do. I'll happily call people on a Saturday. I don't really have a problem with that, or Sunday even sometimes. I can't at my mum's 60th, so don't mind me on that. But what was I going to say? If you're really serious about actually getting into the market, I highly suggest you reach out by www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. What it is it's just a free obligation, free phone call for 30 minutes. And we discuss basically what we can do for you, possibly what I could do for you if you want to work with me, and even just a bit of a strategy sort of idea or understanding of what you need to do. And I think it's important because as I was saying, look, even if you're not serious about it right now, and let's say it's in 3 months, or let's say you just have no idea what you're doing, but you have cash and want to do something, I think it's really important you reach out and book a free call and consultation, because the strategy itself is actually even more important than the purchase. Now, why I say that is because if you don't have the strategy right, the purchase isn't going to matter. The strategy is probably 90 to 95% of the actual purchase before you even purchase. It's way more important to get the strategy right. So when I announce properties like this online, they're all good deals, right? But not everyone is going to suit every investor. So I would have probably one investor will suit each of these. Don't get me wrong. I have people that do suit these kinds of properties, right? But they all have different circumstances. They all have, different goals. They all have, different obligations. So, really important to get that right. So again, www.compoundinvest.com.au. I thank everyone for watching again and have a great day.
Accessing premier properties is simple. First of all, go to the main page at www.compoundinvest.com.au. Once you're on this page, go to the menu item, What We Do, and you'll see a link to Premier Properties. Click the link And from there, it will ask you basically to fill in your details and sign up. So you need to put your name, phone number, and email address. Once you have done that, click submit. Go back out of the website and then go back into Premier Properties. You will therefore then have access to Premier Properties here, by which you can see what's available, the rough capital growth and the rough rental yield of each property. If you're interested in these properties, therefore click Action where it says View More. Once you then click this, it'll show you basically the metrics. Now, to get full access to this, you will need to reach out via Inquire. From there, you will be sent a agency agreement by which we can get access to the property and ideally close the deal for you. Please reach out if any of these properties are of interest to you, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks.